Welcome back to Cupid's AI Pod. Today we're diving into a topic that's absolutely essential for any organization that relies on the internet. Let's face it, that's pretty much all of us these days.
Definitely. And we often hear about the importance of firewalls and antivirus software, but what about the very foundation of how we even connect to the internet?
Right, we're talking about DNS, the domain name system.
Exactly. And this deep dive is going to explore why securing your organization's DNS infrastructure is absolutely crucial in today's threat landscape.
Now, I think it's safe to assume our listeners are familiar with the basics of DNS. It's essentially the internet's phone book, right?
That's a great analogy. Just like a phone book translates names into phone numbers, DNS translates those human-readable website names like cuebid.se into the numerical IP addresses that computers use to communicate.
So every time we type a web address into our browser, or send an email, or access a cloud service, there's a DNS lookup happening behind the scenes.
Absolutely. It's the invisible glue that holds the internet together. But here's the thing. Despite being so fundamental, DNS is often overlooked from a security perspective.
Yeah, it's like we just assume that phone book is always accurate and trustworthy.
And that's where the danger lies, because DNS is a prime target for cybercriminals. Think about it. If you can manipulate the DNS system, you can redirect users to malicious websites, steal their credentials, and even launch crippling attacks against entire networks.
Okay, so let's get into the specifics here. What are some of the most common threats lurking in the DNS world?
Well, one of the most prevalent threats is DNS spoofing, also known as cache poisoning. This is where an attacker essentially tampers with the DNS records to redirect users to fake websites. So imagine you're trying to log into your bank's website, but instead you're taken to a cleverly disguised phishing site.
That's scary. It plays on our trust in those familiar website addresses.
Exactly. And because the site looks legitimate, users might unknowingly hand over their login credentials directly to the attackers.
So it's not about breaking into a system, it's about tricking users into giving up their information voluntarily.
Right. Now, another major threat is DDoS attacks. The distributed denial of service attacks that can bring down entire websites and networks.
Oh yeah, I've heard about those. They basically overwhelm a server with traffic, making it inaccessible to legitimate users.
Precisely. And attackers can leverage DNS for these attacks too. By flooding a DNS server with bogus requests, they can effectively cripple an organization's ability to connect to the internet. It's like cutting off the phone line so nobody can make or receive calls.
So even if your own systems are secure, you're still vulnerable if your DNS provider is under attack.
Absolutely. And then there's this sneaky tactic called DNS tunneling.
DNS tunneling, what's that all about?
This is where attackers exploit DNS traffic to create a hidden communication channel. It's like smuggling messages inside a seemingly harmless package.
Okay, that sounds pretty sneaky. How does that work in practice?
Well, they can use DNS to exfiltrate data from a network or to send commands to malware that's already inside. And because DNS traffic is often overlooked by traditional security tools, this activity can go undetected for a long time. It's like having a secret backdoor into your organization that nobody's watching.
So basically, cybercriminals are exploiting the fact that DNS is seen as this essential, trusted service, and they're using it to their advantage.
Right, and it's not just limited to those examples. DNS can also be used for command and control in botnet attacks.
Botnets, those networks of infected computers that are often used to launch large-scale attacks.
Exactly. Infected devices can use DNS to receive instructions from the attacker's command and control server. By monitoring DNS traffic, security teams can potentially identify compromised devices that are trying to connect to known malicious domains.
It's like eavesdropping on the bad guys' communication channels.
Exactly. So as you can see, DNS is a critical point of vulnerability for organizations of all sizes.
So we've established that DNS is ripe for exploitation, but what makes it such an attractive target for cybercriminals in the first place?
Well, one reason is its global reach. Attacking fundamental DNS infrastructure can have a widespread impact, potentially affecting millions of users.
So a successful attack can have huge consequences.
Absolutely. Then there's the historical lack of robust security in the original DNS protocol. Many organizations are still running on outdated DNS systems that weren't designed to withstand modern threats. It's like having a house with old locks in a neighborhood with sophisticated burglars.
So the very foundation of the system has vulnerabilities that are being exploited.
Right. And to make matters worse, DNS traffic is often not as closely monitored as other types of network traffic. It's often seen as just basic plumbing, so it doesn't get the same level of security attention as email or web browsing. And this allows malicious activity to fly under the radar.
It's like the security guard is paying more attention to the front door and completely ignoring the back alley.
Exactly. And sometimes responsibility for DNS management is split or unclear within an organization, leading to a lack of dedicated security oversight. The focus is on keeping it running, not necessarily on actively securing it.
It's like everyone assumes someone else is taking care of it.
Right, and that's a dangerous assumption. But here's the good news. The European Union Agency for Cybersecurity, ENISA, estimates that a staggering 92% of cyber attacks involving DNS could be stopped with modern security measures.
92%. That's a huge number. It really highlights the potential for improvement here.
Absolutely. So let's talk about some of the key strategies organizations can implement to secure their DNS infrastructure.
Okay, so without getting too technical, what are the fundamentals?
Well, one of the most important is DNS-SE, which stands for Domain Name System Security Extensions.
DNS-SEC. Got it. And what does that do?
Think of it as adding a digital signature to DNS data. This allows your computer to verify that the DNS response it receives is authentic and hasn't been tampered with.
Okay, so it's like a seal of authenticity that confirms the information is genuine.
Exactly. It helps prevent those DNS spoofing attacks we talked about earlier. Then there's encryption. Traditional DNS queries are sent in plain text, which means they can be intercepted and read by anyone monitoring the network traffic.
Oh, right, like listening in on an unencrypted phone call.
Encrypt those DNS queries, protecting them from eavesdropping.
So it's like having a secure, private conversation instead of shouting your requests across a crowded room.
Precisely. And finally, there's advanced monitoring. This involves using specialized tools to analyze DNS traffic in real time, looking for unusual patterns or connections to known malicious domains. Solutions like Infoblox's threat defense are designed to do exactly this, identifying and blocking threats at the DNS layer.
So it's about having a system that can spot those suspicious activities that might otherwise go unnoticed.
Exactly. And remember that ENISA statistic, 92% of those attacks could be prevented with these types of security measures.
That's a compelling argument for taking DNS security seriously. So for the IT and business leaders listening, what are some concrete first steps they should consider?
Well, the first step is to gain visibility into your DNS traffic. Implement those monitoring tools we talked about to understand what's normal and identify potential anomalies.
Okay, so you get a clear picture of what's happening on your network. What's next?
Then it's essential to have a clear understanding of your entire DNS infrastructure. Where are your DNS servers? Who manages them? What services rely on them? You can't defend what you don't know.
Makes sense. Inventory and visibility are crucial for any security effort.
Absolutely. And then implementing DNS ACC and encryption, DOH or DOT, should be high on the priority list. They provide immediate and significant security benefits.
So those are foundational steps. What else should organizations be thinking about?
Well, educating employees about phishing and other DNS-related social engineering tactics is also crucial. Human error is often a factor in successful attacks.
Right. Security awareness training is always important.
Absolutely. And finally, don't be afraid to seek expert help. Organizations like Cuebid specialize in DNS security and can provide the expertise and solutions needed to implement a robust defense. They can assess your current posture, recommend the right tools and strategies, and help you stay ahead of the evolving threat landscape.
They can be your trusted guides in this complex world of DNS security.
Exactly. And as we mentioned earlier, the regulatory environment is also evolving. Secure DNS isn't just a best practice anymore. In many cases, it's becoming a compliance requirement. Regulations like the EU's NIS2 directive are placing greater emphasis on foundational cybersecurity measures, including DNS security.
So organizations need to be aware of these evolving regulations and make sure they're in compliance.
Absolutely. Failing to do so can lead to significant penalties and reputational damage.
Okay, so let's recap. DNS is the Internet's fundamental phone book, and as such, it's a prime target for cyber attacks, ranging from redirecting users to malicious sites to enabling covert data theft.
And while it's often overlooked, implementing modern security measures like DNS-SEC, encryption, and advanced monitoring can prevent the vast majority of these attacks, significantly strengthening an organization's overall security posture.
Absolutely. So if you're ready to take a critical step in securing your organization's network, what should our listeners do?
The most important thing you can do right now is to get a comprehensive review of your DNS infrastructure. And we highly recommend contacting Cuebid. They have a deep understanding of DNS threats and a proven track record of helping organizations build resilient defenses.
Cuebid partners with leading technology providers like Infoblox and offers tailored solutions backed by 247 monitoring to ensure your DNS infrastructure remains secure. Their expertise can help you not only defend against DNS-based attacks, but also leverage DNS as a proactive security tool.
With their extensive experience and high-level certifications in DNS security, Cuebid can provide the insights and support you need to protect your organization from these often invisible threats.
So don't wait until you become a target. Take proactive steps to secure your internet phone book and ensure it's working to protect you. Head over to cuebid.se today to get in touch and arrange a review of your organization's DNS security. It's a fundamental step towards a more secure future.
Thanks for having me. It was great talking about this important topic.
Yeah, this was really insightful. I think we all learned a lot about the importance of DNS security today. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to Cuebid's AI Pod. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the world of cybersecurity.